Cybernation Uncensored.
Hello, gatos, and welcome to another episode of Tales from the Forlorn Dopes. It is I, Cybersmily, with my co-host.
Greetings, programs. It is Wisdom coming at ya.
And this episode is probably going to be a little bit of rambling from both of us, as we kind of just didn't have anything planned for this session. So we're going to try to do a little bit of just, I don't know, ad hoc. We have a couple ideas that we want to go through and see how it goes, but I think first off I am going to debut some of my changes that will be pushed out to my site this weekend, so kind of giving our audience here a little bit of a preview of what you can expect to see on my site. So let me just switch over to my desktop. Hopefully you can all see my wonderful site. So you can see I already listed the updates. So the first update is a fan request, which is the Acpa Generator. So here you can see I already started creating some ACPAs, or power armor.
Oh my.
From the book. The numbers aren't exact, but I think, you know, some of the rules I didn't fully integrate. Some of them were a little bit too hard to integrate, at least in the time frame I had. But eventually, I'm sure I'll improve it. But yeah, so you have the ability to
let's make powered armor.
Start this off. So yeah, so the first thing you got to do is choose a frame. Ooh, I need to fix that before we go. So I have the frame names, or just
holy crap! Look at that.
So let's go with
you are the coder extraordinaire.
Demigod. You can choose your armor. By default, the troop size is 114. Go look at maximum metal for what that number actually means and how to use it. Again, I'm not putting too many of the content from maximum metal in here. So you should definitely get that supplement. It is well worth the money. And I have a link to the source book as well as to the PDF. You choose your reality interface, the control you want, and then you can just start filling in your fun stuff, which is the various components. So maybe I want a military radio in the head. Let's get some more other wonderful things to jam into your head. Let's go with sonar. I can then choose various art or weaponry. Again, when you actually select, what's going to happen with the list of choices is all dependent upon how many spaces are within the given section. So as you can see, here's a bunch of ammo reloads. But only one weapon. So this 20 to 25 millimeter autocannon has 3 spaces, which means all the other weaponry is probably too big to fit in there. So I might just want to go in and carry one of the big guns, like the BHC.
Or have it mounted on your shoulders.
Yeah. So this utility, right? So mounted on the shoulders will be part of your torso. And again, the selection also determines whether it's internal versus external. So if the item doesn't normally or doesn't allow an internal slot, you're not going to be able to choose it. So example here, I can put a 50 cal on the outside, and then it all calculates what's the total weight, how much it costs. Costs, look at the book. There is some cost savings depending upon if you buy it in bulk. So keep that in mind. You also have your total weight versus your capacity. I don't currently cap that, so you could actually have your total weight over. So again, there's small little things in here that you definitely want to read about. There's some special rules with some of the equipment that aren't always applied, but you'll be able to at least get the basics created. You'll be able to save it to a file. So this saves it to a JSON file, so you can upload it later if you want to work on it later, or maybe make duplicates and just add in modifications. You also will be able to print it as a PDF. So let's save that. Again, you can rename it, and here's the sheet all printed out. This is kind of boring because there's not a lot of equipment, but you'll be able to print out your power armors going forward. The other enhancement I've done is to both the character generator and the combat tracker. So if you go into your character generator, I'm going to upload one of my characters. Let's go with Prin S. Right. So in the past, with your armor section, you would be able to click on here and do armor damage. However, now I have specific damage. So I can put in 14 points damage to a location. I can choose the ammo type. So the ammo type will list out what it does. For example, hollow point will double the armor, and anything that gets through will be 1.5 times the damage that does get through. So let's just do AP round. Again, certain rounds might do more damage, so you can also adjust how much SP damage the armor and layers take. So for quick calculation, we have 14, which means that's equal to my SP. So 7 of the points should get through, and out of that 7, it should be divided by half. I round up because I'm sadistic referee. So that means 4 points will get through. My BTM is at a -2, so technically I should only take 2 points of damage from that hit. And as you can see, I took 2 points.
Nice.
And then you can just click off it and it'll go away. Again, applies the SP damage. Same thing goes with the combat tracker. So if you're in your combat tracker, you can do some damage. And 3 points minus his BTM, which is 3. So he would have taken 0 damage. But I think you always take at least 1. No matter what.
If damage gets through,
yep,
you always take at least 1 point of damage.
So that's what's coming out this weekend for my site. So hopefully that improves your game experience, at least with Cyberpunk 2020. If you're looking for an app for Red, I know a person who is doing a mobile app. Again, I kind of been shying away from doing my own version of it, but I do have, other things for Red that are here. Also, things I also have planned are a bunch of other things that will, I'm sure, keep me busy for the future year. So that's kind of it from me as a presentation to start. So those who joined early got to see a little bit of a preview of what's coming out this weekend on my site. So we can get back into what we're going to be talking about. And I think we discussed a little bit about what tools we kind of use to run our games, and some other things like what kind of music tried to either inspire us or we try to use to get immersion with the group,
Just in general, how we create the right atmosphere for our gaming. Yeah. Music, lighting, what kind of art we like to put on the walls, if any. What? Yeah, we can.
Yeah,
We can start with music. Do we want to start with music that we directly use as background music, or
yeah, sure, we can do that.
do we want to go for music that inspires us? Because for me,
I
those
think
are two
it's
separate things.
sure, but I think from my point of view, talk about the tarot cards. I've heard about them. I haven't yet downloaded them yet.
Tarot cards?
Yeah, so there's a free download of tarot cards that were inspired from the Cyberpunk 2077. And actually, let's. You're seeing my screen, right? So maybe I can.
Yeah, no,
give you a quick
I
demo.
don't know how to. Aqua semen? Aqua. I have no idea. Aqua Ace Man. There we go.
Acpa Ace Man. Yes.
That was hard to figure out there for a second. The tarot cards. That's
So the tarot cards are also to help with adding in, I think, some damage and some other effects associated with it. I'm not going to show it on the screen because I don't know if it's covered by the homebrew policy, so I'm going to try to make sure that Cybernation Uncensored doesn't get pinged by our Talsorian for it. But basically, the cards are there to kind of what I'm trying to say is like the luck deck, right? That people have published.
sure.
In which you have randomness, but through cards of, like, for example, the sun. If the victim is carrying any grenades or explosive, the GM chooses one of them to explode immediately. Wow. That can
I've got
be
those
pretty
down.
heinous. But things like that. So it looks like it's a way in which you can add some randomness and other, I would say, game mechanics into critical damage, right? To
Sure.
play around with it.
I mean,
I have yet to use this. Again, I don't play Red yet. I was in a game, but the game kind of fell apart, which kind of was sad, but, you know, I completely understand the situation around it, so it's all good. Eventually, I'll get into a Red game as well. But yeah,
it's neat
yeah.
seeing the art from the tarot cards you collect in the video game. I was never sure why they were part of the video game, like why tarot cards of all things. It
Well, I
seemed
think
like a weird collectible in a cyberpunk game.
I think the tarot cards were kind of a brought over from The Witcher, right? So The Witcher kind of
I
had
get that. I mean, The Witcher had Gwent and all that other stuff too. That just
It was all about do what you know. The other thing that came out, which I actually put money towards Altorsorian because I love that company, was the new interface magazine, ebook. I don't know what they're calling it, but it is a compilation of all their downloadable stuff in a book format, which is kind of nice to have just one resource versus hunting down and trying to figure out where that link is to whatever article that our Talsorian pushed out. I do wish they had put something new in that book, just to make you feel like you spent money on something new, or something that's not readily available. But again, I like that our Talsorian is starting to think that way towards pushing out maybe chronicles or some type of interface periodical, right? For the
I
fans.
like the idea that I can get all the free stuff that they've put out in a professional, like printed and edited version, just all at once. I'm okay with that. I don't know about the price seems a little high to me, but nothing outrageous. Like I would still buy it. I'd just, I'm gonna grumble because I'm an old man. I tell you what. Speaking of cards, though, I did pick up the Netrunner deck, and I also picked up the data pack. Sadly, I left both of them in my friend's car, and I just got the very most cursory of glances at them. They look really cool. I like I said, I didn't get to open the net running deck, but I'm very excited at the prospect of what it could be. If it allows, I very much liked using the Netrunner card game as the net running rules, as put forth in Ray Sparkmos's Brainware Blowout, as your net running rules. Like that's something we did back in the day. So if this is like that and lets me do that, I'm all for it. Like I'm very excited. I am kicking myself that I left these in my friend's car.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see the correlation between those cards and, the spell decks from Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Hopefully with Black Chrome, a lot more programs will be surfacing for Red.
If that's the case, then I hope that they release more cards. Like,
yeah.
I would be willing to pay for that. I don't want... the biggest problem with using the old net running card game is that it was a collectible card game, so you had, it got really expensive trying to track all that crap down. But I love the idea of having, a tactile, a prop almost. If net running is going to be, a separate thing from your regular skills, and it's going to be something that is happening besides the action, adjacent to the action, the physical action of the game, then to have it be something like this, something that's quick and fun on its own, that just is win. Like I said, I also picked up the data pack, which is maps and scenarios and all sorts of good stuff like that. It comes in a weird format. The net running card deck is tiny, as far as a playing card. It's smaller than a regular playing card. In between the size of your standard business card and a playing card, right in the middle of that. But the data pack is oversized. It's the size of a binder or a trapper keeper, with this weird folder thing that's open at both ends. I would prefer it if they were going to create this big folder thing, that it not be open at the bottom so stuff doesn't fall out. But there's a copious amount of stuff in it, so it's worth the money, I would say. The maps are gorgeous. That much I know. I got to look at those.
Yeah, so I still need to get the data pack. I haven't. Work has been kind of crazy for me of late.
Yeah, I want to pick up.
Go ahead.
I want to pick up the crap. My brain is not working. The thing you were talking about a minute ago.
Interface.
Yeah, I want to pick up interface really bad. I also want to pick up the pin set from
Penny Arcade.
Yeah, Penny Arcade.
Yep.
Heck, just for the shot of the dude from the cover of the 2020 source book, core book, just for that pin alone, I very much like my toys.
Yeah, I was thinking of picking up some of those too, and sure, there's a limited amount. So, what's the fear of missing out? FOMO.
Yeah, fear of missing out. Cyberpunk is really the only thing I actively collect anymore on a physical basis. I haven't been able to buy everything because I now have to. It's now encompassing both Cyberpunk 2020 and Cyberpunk Red, And trying to get all that, the miniatures alone are putting me in the gutter. Holy shit, those things are expensive.
At least you're not a war gamer.
Oh, Jesus Christ, I could never afford that. And then there's all the Cyberpunk 2070 stuff, or 2077 stuff, which, I mean, I've put a dent in it, but some of that stuff is just so bloody expensive. I not to mention, there's just such a glut of it.
Well, you got the collector edition of Cyberpunk 2077, and that was a chunk of change.
Yeah, I got the big hoo-ha video game collection there, with all the goodies, the statue and all that goodness. However, like, I'll never be able to afford one of those. Before the game came out, they gave out the free the statues of the chick with the arm blades.
Yep.
Like, those are running. Like, people are trying to sell those for over $1,000 now. I'm like, damn, I will just never own one of those. That's sad. I've picked up all the other stuff that they were giving away. Like, I picked up the T-shirt, well, not all of it. I still haven't picked up a pen, but I have picked up the lanyard and like the visor, silly stuff like that, because I got a problem. I got problems, addictions.
Could be worse. Could be heroin.
Yeah, it could be heroin. At least this way I have something to show for it.
Yep. And you can stop at any time.
Yeah, I don't know who lied to you about that, but I mean, technically, I guess that option is there, but we both know that's not realistic. If we could stop at any time, I never would have bought Ravengers or the Hollow Men.
I never bought Hollow Men, so you're more of an addict than me.
Technically, neither did I. One of the site's fans sent it to me. I'm both grateful and appalled at the same time, because it is the worst thing I've ever read.
That reminds me, we need to get Seth back on to so he can defend his ranking of Ravengers on that site.
Yeah, I would very much like to hear his reasoning behind that. Holy shit. Maybe he's thinking of a different Ravengers. Maybe that's the case.
I don't know, because it was
there's
on the Ravengers little post.
Maybe it's a different
reads.
book with the same cover, the same name, the same author. I don't know.
Same publisher, same same content.
Yeah, we love Seth. So yeah, I would very much like to grill him about it.
Yep. All right, so let's move on to music, right? And
yeah,
what
let's
inspires
get to the
us
matter
and
at hand.
what we use it to, or what type of music we use to get people immersed into our games. So I was telling you, Wisdom, before the podcast, and again, I think this is a topic that I think you're going to be more fluent in, because whenever I've tried, so whenever I try to add in atmospheric music to my players, they usually are like, yeah, turn it down, turn it off, it's distracting, I'm trying to concentrate, and kind of always been pushed to the side when I tried to use it. And then, lately, past couple of years when I started getting back into gaming, it was mostly at game shops, so I couldn't really bring my own music. And then we went to online, and that turns into, well, as a player, I can put on my own atmospheric music, going forward. So I kind of had a problem with trying to get that atmospheric music into my game sessions. So definitely love to hear your experiences and what kind of music you like to use.
All right, well, as I said earlier, like I have two different philosophies on this. There's music that I use in game, and then there's music that like inspires me. As far as in-game music goes, I've got a pretty simple rule. It can't have lyrics in English. It's either got to be instrumental or in a foreign language. Um, the original the original soundtracks that I used when I first started gaming, like the ones that were heaviest in rotation, were the Dune soundtrack by Toto, the Blade Runner soundtrack by Vangelis, the Akira soundtrack, and Passion, the soundtrack to The Last Temptation of Christ by Peter Gabriel. Those 5 CDs were like the first year of gaming. That was the rotation. They all create like they're all music that you don't hear very often, genres that aren't prevalent, so they instantly put you in a different mindset when we were playing. The only thing that ever got distracting was like in Dune, when there's a little bit of like speech inserts between the songs. But for the most part, they were just very atmospheric, almost alien, if you will, sounds that were going on in the background. Some of it was more distracting than others, like some of the songs from the Akira soundtrack were a little more boisterous. They worked really well for action scenes, though. Since then, of course, I've added tons and tons of music to my background music repertoire. Lots of foreign music, lots of instrumentals, everything from Joey Satriani to like Rodrigo y Gabriela, or anime soundtracks, African and Tibetan music. Angelique Kidjo's really good at that. She's got a great sound. But yeah, just keep it. When it comes to running a game and listening to the music, the last thing you want is players singing along to the music. So you don't want something that's too familiar, and you don't want something with lyrics that they can sing along to. That's when things become really distracting. At least that's my advice to the world when it comes to background music in gaming. When it comes to music to inspire the games, well, shit, if you go to Datafortress2020, go to the references section, you'll find, like, I've compiled several albums worth of music that inspire me to run a game. I did full album art and all sorts of stuff because back then I had just nothing but time, and creativity was flowing fairly well. But now, I can't make the music available to you. However, I did find a guy on YouTube who had actually compiled like all the songs that I put on those soundtracks, even in like the interludes of like movie clips that I'd taken and put in there. Now, they're not exact. They're not the exact same versions of the songs, or like the clips run a little bit long. But I was impressed, flattered, and honored when I found out that somebody had taken the time and effort to put all that music together on YouTube. So if you go onto YouTube, look up the names of the albums. There's Life in the Neon Gutter, Life in the Wastelands. Both of those have 6 volumes apiece. There is Conflict Africa and Conflict South America. So a total of 14 albums worth of music.
And someone
It-
produced all of it on YouTube, huh?
yeah, someone compiled all that shit on YouTube, within its own playlist. I came across this like a month and a half ago, and my jaw dropped. I was like, holy crap, this person never contacted me. They never let me, they were doing this. I came across it purely by luck, looking to do something like that for myself. Yeah, you can just imagine the surprise and awe that I felt when I came across this.
So I have your page open with all the tracks, and of course, I'm reading through them, and AC/DC has a song called Cyberspace.
AC/DC has a song called Cyberspace.
I gotta ask my wife about that one. She is a huge AC/DC fan, and
It is not one of their more popular tracks.
well, which is funny because AC/DC plays one song.
Yeah, I mean, it is
on the 30 albums that they have.
Yeah, it is a ridiculously eclectic and varied list.
Man, yeah, you definitely have Bon Jovi. Ugh, I hate that guy.
I mean, you can hate him, but if you're playing a Nomad game, Blaze of Glory is about as Nomad a song as it gets.
Yeah. Yeah, so definitely want to go out to Datafortress2020, go into his reference data and Cyberpunk 2020 soundtracks. I'll have to take a look at this and look up the YouTube to find out. Yeah, so
I made these back in the day when people were still making compilation CDs of stuff. Hence the CD labels and all that. Like,
yep.
I have yeah.
Yeah, for me, for inspiration, most of my games are very action oriented, kind of in a way. So the music I usually listen to is a lot of industrial, just because I like that mechanical sound, like Ministry, Nine Inch Nails, Static X, which Static X is kind of a borderline thrash industrial.
Yeah.
But like soundtracks like The Matrix, what's the other one that I was telling you about? Crow.
The Crow.
Yeah, The Crow was good, and kind of like basically, a lot of the 90s rock that kind of was happening at the time of cyberpunk.
That's what introduced me to My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult. So yeah. It's a fantastically good soundtrack. Cybernation, is that you, Rob?
Yeah,
I'm assuming. That's Rob. Like, if you look on YouTube, you'll find some like ambient background noises. Like, some dude created a YouTube recording of like 12 hours of like Deckard's apartment from Blade Runner, or like a city street. That stuff is so useful. Like, that will instantly put you in the right mindset. I found one for like the inside of a club, where you just like the back room of a club, where all you hear is like the bass boom 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 boom, and then muffled talking. It's if you can look through YouTube for like ambient background noise recordings. Yep. They're gonna be your best friend.
Well, Sirenscape is also partnered with Artal Saurian to generate specific cyberpunk things. So
I very much wish I could afford that. Sirens, and I wish I'd had the tools when I had my gaming room to make full use of Sirenscape, because I used to have a subscription back in the very early days, and I'd create, soundscapes and all that. But I didn't have the tools I needed. I didn't have like good speakers or a good controller to make the best use of it. I look at it now with what they've done and the soundscapes that they've created and sound effects, and I'm just blown away by how cool Sirenscape is.
Yep. Yeah, there was a couple, and this was prior to Sirenscape. I know I looked at various boards. I mean, I tried to get some atmospheric sounds into my game, at least for my D&D, which that group was a little more accepting of background noises, which is fine. And even me, being in my old age and God knows how much hearing damage I've had. Rob probably has even more from being in a rock band. But yeah, it's always that weirdness of a background noise when you're trying to talk, especially if the GM or the referee has a softer voice than the background music. But I like your advice.
Problematic.
Yeah, and I like your advice that don't use music that has lyrics. Just use.
You're just shooting yourself in the foot.
Yep, because people are going to be like, "Oh, this is my jam," and just start singing along.
Yeah, even if they're not consciously doing it, like if a song comes on that they know, they'll be singing along to it in their head, and they'll like completely lose track of whatever's happening. It's just the nature of human beings and music and noise. You want to sing along because it's fun and it's a good time and it releases endorphins and all that.
Yeah.
But yeah. But as a GM, you want to create an atmosphere that like puts your players in the game. One of the very first things I ever put on Datafortress was some almost, like, looking back, it's almost embarrassing, the advice that I was giving back then. But my advice for music remains the same. My advice for lighting. Obviously, you can't have weird lighting all the time. Because players are going to, nobody wants to sit in blinking lights and all that. But as someone who, made use of a black light, because I had a table that was black light, like the surface of the table itself was UV reactive. So the surface of the table glowed. We'd have maps and everything would light up and it'd be awesome. But you didn't want to run the black light as the only light going on. You just wanted it in the background to make the pages glow and all that.
Yep. And for those who haven't gone to Datafortress2020 and gone to the reference data and look at Wisdom's two game rooms that he's had in the past, definitely go check out those images because they are definitely something very inspirational if you're looking to create a cyberpunk play area. I was
sadly
very
I no longer. Yeah. It was a dream come true that lasted about 15 years, and then life stepped up, slapped me in the face, and now I no longer have room to even have my stuff on hand, much less displayed. But yeah, it goes beyond lighting. Like, it can be much simpler. Just not only how you've got your art and whatever decorations you want to set up in your room, but like how they're displayed themselves. A lot of people aren't going to have the time or money or space to have like a dedicated gaming area. And even if they do, they're gonna generally play more than one game. They're gonna be playing, Cyberpunk one week. They're gonna be playing Dungeons and Dragons the next. They're gonna be playing GURPS or Rifts or what have you. So they're not gonna want to dedicate the room to like one theme because that's not gonna work for most people. But having, I had a friend who in his gaming space, he would have like double-sided posters that were hung up by strings. So like one week we'd be playing Dungeons and Dragons and there'd be like fantasy art on the wall. The next weekend we'd be playing like sci-fi games and he'd flip the posters over and it'd be like sci-fi posters.
That's pretty smart.
Like, there are little things you can do. Yeah, there are little things you can do to create atmosphere that will keep you and your gamers immersed in the room, immersed in the mood of what's happening.
Yeah, I used to have a friend who, when he GM'd, he would basically go out and photocopy various images, and instead of using the standard out of the box DM screens with whatever the particular system had for their outward appearance, he would put in those images to kind of get people a little bit more in the mood of what he was thinking of for this game. And mostly he ran vampires, so there was a lot of very gothic imagery that he would put on, and he would change it every week, right? To kind of give you an idea of he kind of also gave a foreboding of what's going to happen in that session, which was a nice touch as well.
I'm always jealous of people who run more fantasy-based games because, man, Halloween shows up every year. You go to Spirit Halloween, and there's just game rooms, decorations everywhere you look. There's nothing like that for Cyberpunk. You can't go and get like a Cyberpunk plastic chandelier or anything like that. We're left out in the cold. Just like with miniatures, we don't get mass-produced, cheap, pre-painted plastic miniatures like the D&D crowd get. We get super expensive,
high quality, high definition miniatures.
Yeah.
So it's not that bad. Yeah, I mean that's the one thing I think for me with growing up and having this capability of really decorating your rooms to be more inspirational than it's you're down in the basement next to the washer and dryer trying to play a game on the basement floor.
I mean, you can make a basement look pretty cyberpunk. It just takes an imagination.
True, very true. But I think with today's age and what not only is produced, like manufactured to kind of add to your rooms, but the things like the crafters that are in the gaming community now, right?
Oh, so good lord.
What they can do, especially like the cosplayers,
prop makers, cosplayers,
so
the guys who are creating like STL files for the maker things.
Yep, 3D printers.
3D printers. That's. Gee, I told you my brain isn't working right today. I mean, the amount of groovy stuff that is available is overwhelming, and some of it's like dirt cheap.
Yep. I mean, like a 3D printer is cheaper than a game console now. I mean, it didn't used to be, but now it is.
I wish I had space for a 3D printer. Being able to print my own props and miniatures, Jesus Christ.
There's either you have the noise, and if you do resin, you have the smell. So it has like I said, you need space because it creates like toxic fumes and all sorts of stuff. I don't have the space. I don't have the money. I can just stare at them longingly and wish. Yep. And like even like lighting, is cheap to get.
Oh yeah.
And
you've got like a variety of options.
Yeah.
You can get Christmas lights. You can get LED strips now just for nothing.
And LED strips that you can program to go and change lighting the way you want it.
Yeah, do all sorts of stuff for you. Hell, they've got those, like, they make them for Christmas and Halloween, but they're basically projectors. You can sit down and throw crazy stuff up on the walls. Like, holy crap, where was this stuff when I was growing up?
Yeah.
Like, you can have the coolest lighting. You can have, like, club quality light shows going on in your garage for, like, less than $100, and you're gonna be totally set up.
Definitely. Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of stuff that you can get to set up at least a game room to be more immersive. And even if you don't have a dedicated game room, there's definitely these little devices that you can just bring to any room and just break out whenever you game to set it up, which is nice. But yeah, so again, for me, it was it was always like I tried to do mood lighting and music, but oftentimes my cyberpunk players were just not into it.
Here is a suggestion I have that it's not going to be to everybody's cup of tea, but it's something that I used to like to do is like switch up the gaming locations every now and then. Go take over a park bench and play outdoors. Go to a restaurant at like a Denny's or something like that that's open 24 hours a day, and like take up a corner booth with your friends. Make sure you don't be a dick and just order coffee all night. Like, order food every now and then, and tip the waitress well. Don't be a dick. But yeah, break up the locations, make it new and interesting. Of course, have your home base where your comfort zone is, but just every now and then, it's nice to break out of the boundaries and get a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, and to that point, I was recently, prior to the virus, I was in a D&D group. We used to play at a gaming store, and we kind of got tired of the noise. So one of the members found a bar that basically didn't have any, we played Monday nights. So he found a bar that was pretty much empty on Monday nights, and we would go there, order drinks,
Nice.
order food, and basically, because the way the bar was set up, so you had the bar area, and then it had like these two. It was weird. It was like almost like a split level house, right? So you had the bar area. We came in for the entrance, and then you walk downstairs into like a little dining room, and then the other side would be you go upstairs into like this dart room, game room type of area. So the dining room area was empty for Monday night. So we kind of took
Very
over that
cool.
whole little place, ordered drinks, ordered food, and then we would just game through the night. It was interesting to have, people who were up in the bar drinking come down and be like, what's going on here? And explaining what role-playing games are. And some of them were like, wow, this is interesting. I figured all of you people would be like shut into your mother's basements. And I'm like, no, we drink, we go out, we socialize. We're normal people.
Yeah, I've run games on road trips. Took a trip to Colorado a few years ago, and the entire way there and back, I ran a game of Cyberpunk. I had to take over driving because the player would try and roll dice while he was driving, and all it took was one swerve, and I was like, no, you're not doing that anymore. You're just gonna have to live with me, assigning some difficulty numbers and you living with them. We're not doing the driving and rolling dice at the same time thing. That's not happening. But it was a successful game. It was grand fun. And every now and then I would try and pull the scenery of what we were looking at into the game. Yeah, you can game anywhere, and you should. You should take advantage of the imaginatory nature of gaming and game in weird places.
Yep.
Game on rooftops. Game. There was a time when we used to game in a gaming store, but we didn't eventually the gaming store itself became uncomfortable. It was, like you said, it was loud, it was obnoxious, the lights were too bright. So the gaming store was inside a mall, so we just went out into the mall and found a table in the center of the mall with all the cool architecture and all that around us. We gamed there for 6 months.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, when I was, my teenage years, we would just game wherever we could because our parents
Outlaw gaming.
would kick us out of the house saying, get outside, stop being in the house.
There was
right?
a lot of that. Yeah.
So we would game wherever and there was some good things, like we had, some parks around, like, nature parks which you could hike through. And I remember one of my friends ran a game, and basically we were the adventurers going down the path. And granted, it was kind of a little bit like, what was that movie? Mazes and Monsters.
Mazes and Monsters.
Yeah, right, in which we didn't dress up, but he kind of like, okay, you get ambushed here with orcs, and we would just like sit off from the path and roll out the combat, and did a little bit of role playing there. But it wasn't very interactive, but it definitely brought a better immersion to hey,
absolutely.
Oh yeah, I definitely couldn't see the bandits over there, because it was just, the woods were too thick, or the brush was too thick. So
a dark, scary forest in front of us. No, they could be an army right there, and I wouldn't see them. Yeah, it helps to be able to illustrate stuff like that. And a lot of what we're talking about right now is going to seem obvious to some people, but I guarantee you there are people out there listening who the idea of gaming outside of their basement just has never really occurred to them.
Yep.
Like, what do you mean go to the park and game? Yeah, go to the park and game. Go to the mall, sit in the food court, game.
As long as you're not being too obnoxious, they'll...
Yeah, anywhere where you're not being a disruption to other people, or like gaining attention of people you don't want to gain attention from. Anywhere that's safe. When I would go to visit my cousin in Oklahoma, we would game on the dock. His parents owned a marina, and we'd go down there and game on the water. Or we'd take a pontoon boat out and game on the boat. Like, be adventurous.
Yep.
If you're going out there to do something fun anyway, and you're hanging out with all your nerd friends, there's no problem. There's nothing that says you can't inject a little nerd into whatever else you're doing.
Yep. And I think at least the game environment has changed, especially since COVID, right? And that a lot of people have gone into the online tabletop version of gaming, and how that works. And I think a lot of people have gone to Roll20 because it's a free product. I've used it heavily since COVID,
yeah.
And kind of gotten me into it. However, there's definitely a lot of things that I am just getting annoyed with trying to run a game. And that's why I'm starting to look at other tools. So
yeah,
I did start looking at another popular version called Foundry. However, Foundry did not have Cyberpunk 2020. It does have Cyberpunk Red, but there's also a $50 buy-in fee.
Ooh.
That's just mainly for the GM, right? To do the buying, and then in addition to that, you have to have a place to host it. Now you can host it on your computer, which is fine, but there is definitely some security risks when you host it on your computer, because you're opening up your computer to the internet. There are ways around it of creating a virtual machine on your machine, but if you're not computer savvy, you're not going to know these things. So opening up ports onto your computer for people from the internet to go into is not a good idea.
Just to interject, if you do play online, if you do your majority of playing online, you can still get creative, especially if you've got a laptop. You can take your laptop wherever you go and play from there. So you can continue to do that exploratory gaming. You don't get to share the location with other people, but you also aren't going to get the problems that, a large group of people are gonna take up. Just to interject that real quick, like you can still get creative with with the environment you're surrounding yourself in.
Yeah, that's true too. I mean, that's the other great thing about gaming. If you're not married, you can go on vacation and still have that weekly game, right? If you're married, your spouse, if they're not in the game, are probably going to frown on you being on vacation and going off and gaming when, you're supposed to be on vacation. But, there's always that possibility as well, right? It doesn't matter where you game because now all you need really is an internet connection.
If you're okay with gaming online, you can game anywhere.
And if you have a good cellular service, your phone is basically your internet, right? It's a way in which you can link your computer into and piggyback on that signal.
I mentioned a laptop, but a laptop's not necessary as long as you've got some manner of internet connection, be it your phone, a tablet, whatever. Hell, if you've got a phone, like you said, you can have a internet connection anywhere you go. Anybody who's got a smartphone can create a hotspot.
Yeah. So speaking of the online tools, right? So I think from a tool point of view is what I am starting to, because I'm looking for a better tool on how I can manage my games. Because I have a timeline, and the timeline is also associated with the Fourth Corporate War, so I always have to keep track of those events as well as the players' events, and also keeping track of my NPCs events, right? So when you're looking at running a game, you also think about what are your enemies planning on doing, right? Because they're not going to necessarily adhere to the player schedule, right? They're going to keep on doing what they're going to do.
And some of the stuff the players will manage will be able to affect, and some of it they won't.
Yep.
Shit's going to happen.
Yeah, for example, the game I'm running right now, there's a big shootout. Few of the players were held, basically are healing up, and it takes time for them to heal up. However, events are still happening in the background with or without them while they're healing. So it's not going to be like, okay, now that you're healed up, we can progress from there. It's now things are happening, and if you're healing, you're going to again get FOMO, right? Because fear of missing out. Because things are happening now that you're laid up and you're not in the best of conditions. So there's always that situation. And I keep a calendar right now for it. I'm starting to look at different tools, and one of the tools I'm looking at is World Anvil, and they have specifically a tool for doing timelines, which is visually I like, and I'm still playing around with it right now.
What's the name of that?
World
Anvil?
Yeah, it's a world builder utility, so you're able to create various articles associated with your world. It's a tool not only for role-playing games, but it's also a tool for writers to kind of create their world and kind of keep some type of sanity around it. So you can create articles linked to the various articles. It also has timelines, so you can create various calendars associated with it. So it's a tool I've been looking at for the past couple of months, and finally I decided to purchase a subscription, which was very cheap. They had a sale.
What's it run?
What's that?
This looks amazing. What's the subscription run? Because it looks amazing.
So I don't know if they still have the offer that they had that I bought yesterday, but they said that there was a 40% discount, and you might want to look at it. But so there's various levels. So the free level, you get one world, You get a certain amount of data that you can have in the tool. Some of the features you can't have. And then there's various tiers, right? This is still kind of buggy because it's in version 0.8. But it looks like they've been developing quite a bit around it, and there's a lot of neat functionality that I liked. And again, it's not specifically for just role-playing games, though it looks like they've kind of implemented quite a bit, because I think a lot of role players have been using this utility. But it's one way of trapping, content within your world. There's a few other utilities that I've looked at out there. One was called Brass City, which it was too simplistic, and it didn't have everything I wanted. But other tools that I've used like OneNote, Microsoft OneNote, Word documents, Excel spreadsheets, and tons of other utilities that you can use out. Even Word, I've used to try to capture the data, but oftentimes, especially when I'm dealing with files, it's very hard to know which file I put it in, right? Versus something like World Anvil or one of those other world building utilities that allows you to link between the various files, so oh, where the hell's that data? Because you also have the search functionality, right? Which is always a key to kind of organize all your notes.
Someday we'll have a big enough audience that we'll be paid to make spots like this.
Yeah, eventually. Takes time. Time and making sure we convert more people into playing Cyberpunk, because it is a much better game than Dungeons and Dragons.
We gotta sell our souls. If anybody's buying out there, they're for
Satan,
sale.
if you're listening. But yeah, there's and again, I just started working with the tool, and some of the features that I'm starting really to dig. I think I'll probably give a better review in a little while, because right now I'm just uploading my campaign that I have into the system, and also, and like one of the things that's kind of important for me is, because it's going through the Fourth Corporate War, Altar Saurian with their, Shockwave and Stormfront supplements, they give key dates. Currently, my campaign is in late January of 2022. So that's like right at the beginning of the Shadow War, end of the Ocean War. So there's definitely things happening in the world that's going to be heating up, because Arasaka starts taking over Night City in the coming months. Militech is starting to, Militech and Arasaka are just starting to come to blows and taking the gloves off and turning the world into a war zone. So it's going to be interesting how to run that as a referee, of taking, hey, you're in this society, city that is running the way you think it's supposed to run, but what happens when armies invade and it starts turning into a battlefield? And granted, there's definitely real world samples like Beirut and other, nations that were prosperous, and then all of a sudden civil war broke out and just turned, gorgeous cities and lively cities into, these war zones and husks of what they used to be.
Oh yeah, and it can happen anywhere. I mean, really.
Yep.
Panama used to be fairly prosperous. Grenada. Look what happened to Egypt.
Yep. or even the Eastern European countries,
Yeah.
and the collapse of.
I mean, all it takes is like, and we're starting to see that even here in America, where all it takes is a little shift and things can go downhill really far, really fast.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not like America's not turning into a war zone necessarily, but I mean, we definitely know how to riot. We definitely know how to. Yeah, we're not going to go there.
Yeah. Politics
I don't want
are
to get into any kind of politics or anything like that.
That's like
the point I was.
Those are topics you want to discuss at a bar in public.
Yeah, the point I was trying to make is like shit can go downhill really far without much pushing it in that direction.
Yep.
But yeah, as far as tools go for running games, I'm fairly new to running the online thing. I use Roll20 for map displays and dice rolling and all that, as you know. Discord for the chat, because Roll20's chat is fucking garbage. I'm just gonna say that. I like Roll20 for its tools, but I hate trying to communicate across it. It just, everything sounds squelchy. Some people are having various problems like staying connected to it. For some reason, Discord just seems to work better in that regard. I know some people use Discord itself to run games. I don't know how you could ever do that. I use Google Sheets and Google Documents. Google Sheets to share. Google Sheets lets you do something great, and that's it. It lets you share a document with one player, and they share it back with you. So as the GM, and so the GM and the player can both edit it in real time on the fly. So if there's any adjustments that need to be made or anything like that, you can always audit things and like help your player get to where they're going or answer any questions they've got about their character sheet. And that's a great tool. The same with Google Docs. I share basically a plot synopsis for the campaigns that I'm running with the players, and allow them to add notes and whatsoever, and we can all see them at the same time. Those two tools I probably couldn't run a game without. The other tool that I get the most use out of is Google Earth. And like I told you before the podcast, I would give just about anything if somebody would figure out a way to display Google Earth in the map section of Roll20 live in real time. Just let me throw the Google Earth Google Earth display into the map section so I can zoom in, go to different areas. That would be the best tool ever. Like, that would be just perfect. Primarily for cyberpunk and science fiction games or anything taking place in the modern world. But I mean, you can find a lot of forests and castles and whatnot there too. So it would work for any gaming, really.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, like to MTH12T. Discord does have a dice bot, so you can roll dice.
I mean, it's got like a couple of dozen dice bots. Some of them are better than others.
Yeah, so running a game through Discord, I can see, because I've kind of done it when Roll20 got too clunky for me, right? So one of the problems I had was, especially in the beginning, is I didn't know how to use the tool as much as I do now. For example, when displaying a map and drawing things quickly, Roll20 is definitely very clunky. So it was, and like you said, I take what I did, especially in Discord, was I would use Discord to share my desktop, right? So I would have Google Earth open, and I would show, okay, here's Night City, here's where you guys are going outside of Night City.
Wait, you can do that?
Yeah. You didn't know that?
Oh my God! No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So if you're on if you're in a chat, right, you should be. Let's just show. Sorry, everyone. I'm gonna give wisdom a little.
Go ahead and. I was gonna say that can wait until the next.
Yeah.
game,
So
but...
well, anyways, for those who want to know, right, if you're in Discord and you look at you know, you're in Discord, you're in your channel. If you look at the bottom, you'll see, like, for where we are now, we're in a voice channel, right? So if you go to where the channels are, at the bottom of that section, it shows yourself. It says video and screen, right? If you click on screen, that will show you the screen or application, right?
I'm trying to get Discord to load on my PC.
Yeah, so I'm actually sharing my screen now to Derek, or sorry, Wisdom. But you can you can display your screen. So if you have a map open on your desktop, you can share it with people and say, okay, you're here.
My God.
The only problem with this is, for example, the players can't come in and move their figures to where they need to be, right? So the GM will still have to, or whoever's presenting would have to manually bring it off, and there's always that communication problem of, no, I wanted to be a little to the left. No, my left. No, your left. You know, no, just a little further over, right? So I definitely can see that being used. Like I know Jay Gray talks about how he runs games, and he uses, and I think Mike uses Zoom, right, to run their games. And again, I don't think they necessarily display their data, so it's all video chat, right? So it's kind of like sitting around the table, right? As long as you have a video camera, and that's the other requirement when you're dealing with these.
Mike, sorry about that.
No worries. When you're dealing with conference calls, right, utilities, whether it's Zoom, Discord, Teams, whatever else, right? I'm sure there's a few others out there in which you can have video chat. And video chat, most video chat applications will have that desktop share, right, in which you can share or present your desktop to another user or to the group. But again, the virtual tabletop takes it one step further, in which, all of you are having this shared desktop, right? And all of you can
project the image and then have the players be able to move their avatars around. That would be the most ideal.
Yeah, and that's what Roll20, Foundry, what's the other one? Tabletop Simulator. Trying to think, there's another one out there. What was
we
it?
Should start
Fantasy Grounds, I think, was the other.
Petition to get Roll20 to add a shared desktop feature.
Yep, Google Hangouts is another kind of conference call type of utility in which you can do it. And again, depending on your play style, right? So, like all play styles, some people prefer, theater of the mind, right? So theater of the mind, who cares if you're presenting a map or, the details like a tabletop game. So you always...
Personally,
go ahead.
I prefer running theater from the mind, even when I'm using a table, like the action and whatnot is going to be theater of the mind. I just like to be able to give players a visual representation of their surroundings.
Yep. and that's, and to me, that's why I think it's important for those viewers, the listeners out there, is, invest in a cheap computer camera, right? Because once you have a computer camera, the one problem is if you don't have a visual cue between players, you don't know when you're going to start talking or someone else is going to start talking, so you can shut up, right? And you also, because you have that visual cue and that body language from people. And that's one thing that, with the games I'm running with Roll20, is we're using Roll20, and we're using Discord for the voices, and it's hard to look at one thing and then switch your gaze over to how people are reacting, right? And from a referee point of view, in-game body language and how you express your NPCs, it's hard to do, especially if you're just a voice over the communications, right? So I've often found myself, not even in games, but because of work, I'm able to telecommunicate, is nodding in agreement to what people are saying, and of course they don't see me nodding, but I'm sitting there nodding, agreeing, or shaking my head, or giving some other body language visual cue of.
On the flip side,
something.
They also can't see you roll your eyes. So.
True. But I think you would be a little more mindful when you're on camera to do that. But you still have that missing body language of communication for some of these tools. They are tools, and they should definitely be used as tools to the side, but you also want to have that experience for that role-playing games are, which is that interpersonal gameplay that people, one of the appeals of the game. So that's a little bit of my rant on the tools and what tools I use. Yeah, and again, I'm always seeking a better tool to kind of trap my campaign.
I mean, that's the nature of the game right there. We're always looking for better ways to play, more interactive ways, better organization, better atmosphere, just.
And that's kind of why my site kind of grew from that, right? And creating the various utilities to help me do what I want to do, right? And I do eat my own dog food. I do use all the tools I have. I mean, more tools than some, right? So max metal calculator, really don't use too much because vehicles have never been a big part of my game. But things like the Netrunner Navigator, I have my Netrunner try to use that tool. He keeps on forgetting how to use it. So it's always a difficult problem of, no, man, use the tool, go build your trace. So when you start using my rules.
I can't begin to tell you how much stuff I've written and put on my site specifically for one player or another that they never even look at. And I'm just like, you bastards.
And like the combat tracker has been very helpful for me. But again, it's when you're dealing with Roll20, it's not, you don't have that interaction between the player seeing the tracker versus unless you're sharing your screen.
It becomes hard to, one, to remember to use all that stuff, and two, to do it in a way that isn't more trouble than it's worth. Because when you're playing with it, it's like, this is the greatest thing ever. I know from my own site that when I'm playing with stuff on my site, wow, it's great. But then when it comes time to actually use some of it, like, I wrote the stuff and I forget that it's there. It's just the nature of the beast.
No, with my games now, right, is I will always have my site open because there's always something that I need to look up, whether it's a piece of cyberware or weapons. You know, and again, that's why I created the site, was to make my life easier.
I mean, yeah, I do the same thing when I'm running, and Data Fortress is always open. But I've got so many windows because I also like to have like your character sheets open, Roll20 open, Discord open, various PDFs open, Google Earth open. Yeah. It tends to get overwhelming kind of quick.
And I think bring up a point and a valuable asset if you're doing, gaming through your laptop, or not your laptop, but your computers. Invest in a second monitor. It is definitely well worth the cost of the monitor. And you can get, even cheap, TVs as to be monitors, as long as there's, HDI and then HMD. I forget what are the various acronyms.
I mean, I'm at a point in my life where the computer I'm using is a Dell all-in-one. It does not. I can't throw the image to any other screens. Like, I can't get a second monitor for it. It will not let me do it. Yeah, I can't tell you how heartbreaking that was. I found out when I was trying to hook the computer up to my television. And I was like, man, I just can't figure out how to do this. And I go online, and it's not even an option. If I could afford a different computer, I would.
Dude, always look on like Craigslist or...
I don't trust buying used computers at all.
True. They could be fried.
No matter how well they're wiped, I don't know what's on that person's browser, and I don't want to mess with anybody else's computer.
Right, but okay, that's fine. That's a hard drive issue, right?
Sure, I get that I could replace the hard drive completely and all that.
The system itself.
And we start talking money, and I just don't have any of it.
Got it, but I'm saying that you could always look around, and I know back in the
shop like crazy.
Yeah, and there's always somebody looking to offload their old system at a cheaper cost, and even parts. So yes. And I advise you and everyone who's listening, if you're going to buy a used computer, you might want to just turn that hard drive into a paperweight and buy a new one. Because, like you said, there's always a chance that, if you're not computer proficient, you might not know how to really wipe out a computer.
I am 100% not computer proficient.
Yep. So, but yeah, so I mean, definitely always look around.
There's a reason. There's a reason my site looks like something from the 90s. Well, because that's as much as I ever learned.
Yep. And if you have a university that's near you, you'd be surprised at how many college students don't want to lug their tower home.
I hear about this, and there is a university near me. Fayetteville, Arkansas is U of A. It's a good school.
I had a friend back in the day. She was a dumpster diver, and she would come up with and granted, where I live, you have like Yale, UConn, and some pretty prestigious colleges around the state that you go at that time, especially like Yale. Dumpster diving is a business. especially in those type of scenarios. But there's also, other rich colleges around that, she would go to that weren't necessarily well known, but there was a lot of rich kids going there who would have they would dump half a dozen not even worn sneakers into the dumpster because they didn't want to carry it home. Her kitchen had, I don't know, 4 or 5 mini fridges, really nice big mini fridges. And it's just amazing what you can get from college dumpsters. So there's always that affordable way of procuring what you want quickly and cheaply. Or even to the point where you could sell it back on, Craigslist or Facebook, was it Facebook store or community or whatever it's called, to sell stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I keep my eye open. I just, even at discounted rates, I'm too old and fat and disabled to be going dumpster diving.
True.
But I keep my eye open. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm looking for. It's why when it comes to video games, I buy consoles. It's why I bought an all-in-one computer, just because it was cheap and it did everything I needed it to at the time. Now that I needed to do more stuff, it's just not gonna do that.
Just like you use Word as your web page editor.
I mean, it could be worse.
It could be.
I still use the majority of my site was created using Netscape Navigator.
Yep.
The Composer program, Netscape Composer. That's what I created 90% of my site on. It's been fairly recently that I started using Word. And the only reason I do that is because I can do that across platforms, and I can create the PDF at the same time as I'm creating the website pages.
Yep.
But I mean, what else would I use?
Very true. So
We're about that sounds like so much fucking work.
We're about an hour and a half in. I don't know if we have too much more we can get into about tools or how to be a little more immersive with your games. Yeah, Notepad.
I mean, I think we've covered the immersion angle, the atmosphere, and all that. Yeah, I mean, we could. Yeah, I think we've about covered it right there.
All right.
Go ahead.
So if we're going to cover it, I think we're going to wrap. I just want to let the people know that our next episode is going to be December 1st, and then we're going to take a year-end break, which means we will be back on January 19th. Again, we'll be here on the 1st, but we're going to take a kind of a month off, kind of reset, hopefully do a little more research into what we can do with this discussions and these episodes going forward. Love to hear from all of you, whether it be on Discord, Derek's Wisdom's over on Facebook, as well as Cyberpunk Nation Uncensored. If you guys want us to start talking about other topics, any people you want us to interview in the coming year,
absolutely, please throw whatever suggestions you can at us. We want to cover the topics you want us to cover.
Yep. And if you want to hear two old farts talk about it and our view of the state of cyberpunk We're here to definitely keep on talking if you're willing to listen to us. So
That's the truth.
anything else on your end that you want to bring up or tell the audience?
We've got, like you said, we've got one more episode to go before we take our year-end break. If there's anything you guys want us to cover in our grand season finale, leave messages somewhere, either here, either on Cyberpunk Uncensored, on his Discord, or my Facebook. Or if you just want to send private messages, my email is wisdom000@gmail.com. You can always reach out to me there. Smiling, share your email with them.
Cybersmily at cybersmily.net. You can reach me at. And that's without an E.
So yeah, let's help if you can help us make our season finale memorable. Because at the end of the day, we do it for us, but we also do it for you.
Yep. All right, and also thanks to Rob and Cyber Nation Uncensored for hosting us. Check them out at cybernationuncensored.com. They've changed their name, so keep that in mind. Rob, you might want to update the MooBot with your new link. I just noticed that. And check us. So if you want to see this episode or one of our past episodes, head over to
YouTube.
You missed a lot. You're gonna have to watch this over on YouTube. PW Bindi.
You're coming right at the very end, buddy.
Yeah, so head over to Cyber Nation Uncensored's YouTube channel. You can check out all our previous episodes, and this episode should get up probably in 2 weeks, I think, is Rob's schedule. So check us out in the coming 2 weeks, and you'll hear us talk about various subjects. And this is what, our 15th episode? It's up there.
No, this is number 16.
16. Wow, I'm already getting very forgetful.
Oh yeah, dude. Old men.
Tell me about it. Yeah, so yeah, I think that's it, and we're gonna call it a night. Thanks for all those who stayed with us, and again, December 1st at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, and 4 p.m. Pacific. GMT, I think, is 11 p.m.
See, now you're just confusing people.
Yeah. Well, we have some fans across the world. Like, Precious Nature is Singapore. I don't know what Singapore's time zone is, but...
No, we got a...
I think it's... I know he lives in the future. That's all I know.
Like Malik's in Australia, Companeros in England.
Yeah.
They come from all over.
Yeah, so, yeah. All right. We'll stop our blathering. Talk to you guys in 2 weeks. Or 3 weeks.
Night, everybody. See you soon.